90% of this would come from the fire commissioners.
Right.
90%. Well, there's like a narrative providing incident description, time of alarm, time of arrival, and of the 10 worst response times to Tilton and Northfield respectively. I would have, who's going to sit there and do a narrative on this stuff, or is that something that they do on every single?
That's something they should normally do.
We felt it'd be in our best interest to just pay the money to have a third party go in, take a look at this stuff, not us trying to do all this, but a third party going in and taking care of it.
And I guess our expectation is that you would have simply handed this to them and they would have provided you with it.
I don't know if they've seen this, have they? Might not be a bad idea.
This hasn't been forwarded to the district.
No. What happens if you spend more time in the collection process? Is that included in
the fee? It depends. I mean, we're fairly easy to work with and we're fairly reasonable, and so, I mean, if we find that we're having to extract this information the hard way, we're going to be back visiting you, telling you that we can't get it. If it's a matter of them saying to us, well, gee, we don't compile our information this way, or we will give you access to the information, we can compile it, that's not a big deal.
I guess when you come back to us, if the amount of time you're spending on it increases, is there some point at which you're going to say, we need more money because this wasn't part of the deal?
No, we would not ask you for more money, and we would stop. We won't incur any obligation to you at all if it looks to us at the beginning as if we're going to have to come back to you. So no, we're not going to get halfway through this and come in and revisit the issue with you. So we will find out quickly if we can expect full cooperation or partial cooperation, and if it's at a point where we're going to have to do more digging or we're going to have to provide more bodies to do more research, we'll come back to you and say it's either going to cost more money or we're going to have to modify what we give you at the end of the day.
But that's before you really started in earnest.
That's right.
Okay.
If I could just add, I met with the fire chief and reviewed the proposals that the board had already received and got his input on putting together the RFP. And his response is he's more than willing to share whatever information. I would just think that one would be like a time commitment. I don't know how much time he and staff has. And secondly, that was just me speaking with the chief. I haven't spoken to fire commissioners. I don't know probably what would be the best way to approach that. I agree with Catherine that I'm sure they'll be cooperative because it's helpful, useful information that everyone can benefit.
So I mean, again, I don't expect that unless there is kind of tacit resistance, that we're going to have to worry a whole lot about this. Again, this is the information we want. It's a whole lot easier for us if it's packaged and put together. And
well, let's face it, we all expect things to go well, but you have a contract because you sort of spell out what can go wrong and what will happen. And I just want to know that we're not going to get into a situation which we would all hope and expect that we would get the full cooperation of the fire district, but if we don't, for some reason, that we're not going to get into a situation with your company that it's going to cost us more money and it's going to incur more time and billable hours on your part in order to complete what we initially hoped to have. I mean, after all, the study will benefit the fire district as well, no matter how it's used for the town.
Well, to answer your question, we will not come back to you and say we're 3/4 of the way into this and we're not going to complete it unless you pay us more money. That's not going to happen. We'll know from the outset. If you all don't have this information, then the next logical place for us to go is to them and to say, we need this information. And if they come back to us and say, none of this information is available, we're going to be back visiting you, saying that 2/3 of this information is available from the fire department that we're studying. If they won't provide it or they don't have it, we can't answer a whole bunch of questions. And if they don't have if they don't record response time information, there's no way we can analyze response time information. And so, if there are some things in here that are opinions. If they elect not to provide us with opinions about the worst fire scenes, then we'll have to draw our own conclusions based upon whatever data is available. We can measure that any number of ways. We can measure it by the value of the loss. We can measure it by injury or death. We can measure it by response times. Again, there are a host of approaches that we can take to this. I mean, they don't have to come to the table and sing Kumbaya with us for us to do a decent report.
I'm sure you've had.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
they're good people. So.
Yeah, I mean, we work, with situations where we work hand in hand, and we work in situations where they lock themselves in the office and say, "Go away, we don't want to work with you." And so, obviously we prefer working hand in hand.
Cooperation.
Yeah, because it works a lot better.
Provision of a cost, I'm reading from your contract here, and you've got, during the course of our work, emphasis was placed on the following. It says identification and listing any current deficiencies within the Tilton Northfield Fire District as they relate to the town of Tilton, which is fine. Number 2, provision of a detailed cost-benefit analysis for the town of Tilton to A, remain in the Tilton Northfield Fire District, B, possibly dissolve the Tilton Northfield Fire District, and provide services through the Tilton Fire Department. At that time, will we have an idea of the district, where we are estimating the district is worth $5 million because you paid an average of 62%, you will walk away with, $3.1 million worth of, I imagine that's how it would break up, if it did break up.
Well, that's part of the provision is that you're going to give us access to your attorney. I can't, that's a legal question, and I can give you my opinion, but I don't want you to go to court based upon my opinion.
I'm just talking about dollars and cents.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Just dollars and cents.
Yeah, I mean, we will, again, we'll come up with, a cost estimate. The building will be based upon, if they don't do an assessment of the building, it will be based upon a reasonable standard. We'll look at the age of the building, we'll look at the number of square feet, we'll look at the replacement cost associated with that many square feet from current construction.
Okay.
We just finished an estimate of building cost for Kingston, New Hampshire. So yeah, we'll give you those. We'll be able to take the fire trucks or whatever equipment they have,
Get an idea of what we have.
approximate value to it, right? And then suggest a plan. I mean, if you're going to dissolve an organization, how is it best? You're not going to cut the trucks into pieces and you take a third and they'll take a third.
Right.
So at some point, there's going to have to be an economic formula to dissolve if you were to dissolve.
And that's what you will help us
Right.
have in writing to be able to explain to the public.
Yes,
If they
we'll
can.
be in a position to say to you, if you were to choose to go in this direction, this is what you would have to look at in terms of staffing. This is what you would have to look at in terms of providing building space. This is what you would have to look at in terms of equipment acquisition. And these are the costs necessarily associated with them. Again, there's going to be projections because
Well, but what you're describing is a snapshot of how it should look like once it's split, but if that were the solution. But I think we're also looking for what are those steps that are taken to get there? If that, given that particular
and
route.
that's- Right, and we, again, we'll prescribe that. It's not dissimilar to how would you dissolve a school district, which we've answered the question on a number of times. And so, right.
Okay.
They